Hi everyone, this is Dr. Aeronautics. You've asked for it, and here it is, finally at last. The Virginia Railway Express, train 303, southbound from Washington Union Station to Spotsylvania, the day after Thanksgiving. We're running the entire Fredericks line southbound using a VRE painted F59. Actually, it's an MP36, not the F59. I think the number, it's number 59? No, number 52. Now, unfortunately, I don't have the gallery cars painted for Virginia Railway Express, but I looked and I did not see any available repaint for the gallery cars, so I'm just using the Metro ones. If anybody knows where to find them, please let me know. So one note that I do want to make at the time about the timetable is VRE train 303 will actually leave Washington Union at 2:40 p.m. However, we're going to depart at 3:40 p.m. because as I want this to feel like a day after Thanksgiving train, I want to make sure that we actually get the lighting correct. And the way the timing works in Train Simulator Classic is that it will never go back, it will never fall back to regular time. It'll just use daylight savings time all the time. And so what happens is the sun will set a lot later than it would normally. So for that purposes, we're going to be using Eastern Daylight Time in here, which means that the train is actually going to be running an hour ahead of where it should originally on the clock here. That being said, we'll get the train ready for departure. So there's a few things that we need to do here. Looks like the headlights, there's only two options here. Let's see, then we'll need the cab light on. I think that's the switch up at top. There we go. And I am using the rail driver for this. So you're going to see a lot more quick movements on the controls. We are facing into the First Street Tunnel at A interlocking, and we're due to depart in just under 2 minutes. Now, another problem with these gallery cars is you can press load, unload all day, and the doors will never actually open on these cars. It's just not featured that way. She calling her family. She's like, yeah, I'm about to get on the train. It's going to leave in like 2 minutes. I'll talk to you later. All right, I think we're ready to go. On my library computer, I've got our speed limits, and I've also got a light pollution map so that we can basically monitor the approximate population density, because the two are usually related. If it's not related to population density, then it's related to human activity. Like, for example, a lot of military bases, which might not necessarily have a lot of people at them, get lit up very brightly because there's a lot of human activity going on. Right now we're at 16.91 magnitude availability per square arc second. That translates into a brightness of 18.5 millilux, which is Bortle Class 9. So we're at the center of the city, and I've got our speed limits ready to go. We've got just about 15 seconds to go. I will bring the brakes into the hold for release position. Without actually releasing them, please. Thank you. Okay, now it's time to depart. And I need to remind myself that there are mileposts, because if there's not mileposts on the line, it's going to throw off my ability to know where I am. So, yes, it does not. Oh, there's a milepost. We're good. All right, so speed limit going into the First Street Tunnel here is 15 miles an hour, but we do have a stop aspect. Request to pass approved. So we'll treat it as a stop and proceed here. All right, so we'll press tab, request to pass signal at danger approved. Okay, we'll release the brakes again. Okay, we're due at Lafont at 2:48 p.m. Once we're totally into the tunnel, then we can't do 25 miles an hour. Oh, that's a little bit unrealistic. They need to add some tunnel occultation or occlusion, whatever it's called in here. Okay, the train should be completely into the tunnel now. So yeah, with the mileposts available, that's going to allow me to do this one blind. So basically by blind, I mean I'm going to hide the HUD, except for getting the time. That's the only reason why I need to display it. If there were a clock on board, which honestly every single train should have, I'm pretty sure it's a legal requirement that every train operating in the U.S. needs to have a clock in order to be able to judge your speed, in case there's something wrong with the speedometer. But unfortunately, the simulator doesn't have it, so we have to go without it. So instead, I have to take a peek every once in a while to see what the time actually is. Other than that, I'm looking at mileposts to know where I am. I've got a copy of the CSX R&D employee timetable over here from, forget what year this is from, but I'm using that to control the movements of the train. Okay, here comes the portal. Okay, so we've resurfaced in southeast DC after going underneath, almost underneath the U.S. Capitol. This out here is South Capitol Street, I think. Actually, no, it's that one right there. So that building right there, that's supposed to be the U.S. Capitol building. It was not released in Train Simulator at the time because the Washington to Baltimore route did not come out yet. So unfortunately, that doesn't look good, but that could easily be replaced if the route's updated. That's I-395, the Southwest Freeway. Let's see, that was yellow over green, so that's an approach medium. It shouldn't affect us right now. We're already doing the speed limit. We're going through Virginia Interlock right now. once we get through the other side, we'll be able to do 40, but our first station in LaFont is coming up. Oh yeah, and that thing up there, that's supposed to be the Washington Monument, which again was not simulated because of Washington to Baltimore not coming out, but it is simulated now. And we do have the alerter active. So I'm going to have to be careful about my external views, else we get a emergency brake activation. And I'm actually not sure how long the VRE platforms are in terms of car numbers, so we're going to have to do a little bit of checking here. So it looks like the entire train will fit, counting the Okay, pretty much right on time. We're due at 2:48 p.m. It's currently 2:47. Get my views set up the way I want them. All right, 5 seconds to go. 2, 1, and depart. Looking down on 7th Street right there. We're now in Southwest. Okay, next stop will be Crystal City at 2:55. Okay, we've still got a medium signal, so this time it will prevent us from accelerating to 40 miles per hour. We'll need to remain at 30 for the time. So we're going to be passing under Maryland Avenue and Hancock Park coming up right here. And this should be our last tunnel. After that, I can turn the interior lights off. Our speed across the 14th Street Bridge is going to be 30 miles an hour here, but we're curving at this point over Main Avenue, and at about this point, the Washington Metro Rail yellow line should be surfacing over here. We're also crossing over the Washington Channel, which leads to the tidal basin. So the Washington Metro Rail Yellow Line surfaces somewhere in this region just to the right. I do believe that the portal is simulated, so we should be able to see it. This is 395 again that we're crossing right here. Okay, that looks like it right there, coming up out of the ground. And that crosses towards Reagan National Airport. Okay, so that is now out of the ground, and now I-395, US 1, the Washington Metro Rail Yellow Line, us, the RF&P subdivision, all cross the Potomac River right here into Virginia. And it is about 3/4 of a mile wide here. By the time we see the Potomac, at the very last time we see the Potomac, it'll be about 3 miles wide on its way to the Chesapeake Bay. And interestingly enough, we are still within Washington, D.C. We will remain in Washington, D.C. until we reach the low tide mark. I can't remember if it's the low tide or the high tide mark on the opposite shore, and only then do we enter Virginia. Okay, now we are in Virginia. So let's see, if you would be able to see everything, the Pentagon, that is the Pentagon right there. Perfect. And at this point, the Washington Metro Rail Yellow Line, which is to our right, has gone underground. It will link up with the Blue Line, which is currently underground. We're pretty much going to pass over shortly for the underground station at Pentagon. And to the west of Route 1 is Pentagon City, and to the east of Route 1, which is where we are, is Crystal City. And just ahead is the Crystal City Station. We are right on time. We'll sit here for just about 1 minute before continuing our journey. Okay, 2:55 departure time. Alright, our next station stop will be Alexandria at 3:03 p.m. And to the east of the train is DC's Ronald Reagan International. Actually, it's not international. Ronald Reagan National Airport. And somewhere along here, the Metro Rail blue and orange line, not blue and orange, blue and yellow, resurface after stopping at Crystal City. There's a stop up on an overhead, which you can kind of see over there, for National Airport. Oh, I've done it. Yeah, so that's what happens when I don't hit the alerter. Now, thank goodness, I didn't go that, I wasn't going that fast, so this should be pretty recoverable. Oh, great, it's going to make me reset everything. Hello? Thank you. See, that's what happens when I spend too much time out of the cab. I need to get out of this region. We're a little bit too... So this load meter basically means for 5 seconds I can do this setting. For 15 seconds we can do this. For 30 seconds we can do that. For 60 seconds we can do that. So I can't push the train any higher than about 10.5. I think that's, yeah, that's 100 amps. So that's like 1,500 amps. Can't push that much power into the train. Alright, so we're coming into Slater's Lane now, but on the on the right there used to be Potomac Yard, which was a huge yard interchange with the Washington and Old Dominion. To our left here is the blue and yellow lines after they have come down from National Airport. They're heading towards Braddock Road. They will go into another tunnel on the way down. Let's see, we just crossed 4 Mile Run, so I can go faster. The 65 at 4 Mile Run. Okay, we're just over a mile from the Alexandria station now. All of the close-in VRE stations are clustered together because this part of Northern Virginia is extremely urban. So it's a little bit of a different situation on the Northeast Corridor. Like the MARC train, once it leaves, it doesn't stop once. There's the Metro portal there. It doesn't stop once until it hits New Carrollton, which is at the Capitol Beltway. But it was designed to be a high-speed line. This one is not. So this is technically the southern extension of the Northeast Corridor, because the Northeast Regional train does operate here, but it operates using diesel and can't go any faster than 79 miles an hour. So it may as well just be a typical Amtrak train. Although Northern Virginia has been growing very quickly recently, and there's a good chance that they're going to be able to put enough money together to be able to get us a high-speed upgrade to about 110. That's the Washington Metro Rail Braddock Road stations between blue and yellow lines, and between around the area where that tunnel portal is, they want to add one called I forget what it's called. I think it's actually Potomac Yard. The neighborhood there. It's an infill station because normally the train stops much more commonly than that. For example, we're already to the next station. The one up on the left, that's King Street. And now we're pulling into Alexandria. Let's see how we're doing time-wise after that kerfluffle. So it's 3:02, and we're due at 3:03. So I did manage to make up the time. That's nice. Just need to keep in mind and remind myself not to spend too much time out of the cab. Although I really wish that they would make the alerter go in external views because, you might say, oh, it's not realistic to hear the alerter outside the train. Well, you know what's also not realistic? Driving the train while being outside the train floating. And after Alexandria, we should be able to sustain some somewhat higher speeds for longer periods of time. But again, 79 is the max. Don't expect 3-digit speeds here. 3-digit mile per hour speeds. All right, 2, 1, and departing Alexandria. Next station stop will be Franconia Springfield at 3:14. That is going to be the first station stop outside of the Capital Beltway. And it is also the last stop on the Metro Blue Line. Just to the left there, after King Street, the yellow and blue line split. The yellow line hugs the river toward Huntington, and the blue line will come over with us to Franconia Springfield, where it will terminate. Okay, we've got a flashing green. Let's see, I think that is normally on the NEC, that's a cab signification. I can see we're making the movement here. So I'll assume that that's supposed to be a approach limited. Once we clear this interlocking, we should be good to do... oh, wait a minute. It's, let's see, red over blinking green. That is, that's a limited clear. Yeah, so once we get out of this interlocking, we can get up to 70 miles an hour. So the Blue Line Van Dorn Street is over there. Metro station. And this is also the location where the Manassas line, the VRE Manassas line, and the VRE Fredericksburg line split right there. So we are now on exclusively the Fredericksburg line. Let's see, now making our turn. Let's see, that is going to be Eisenhower Avenue. There's the Metro Rail Blue Line again on the left. And, oh, jeez. This train creeps up in speed. Come on. Very easy to do that. Once again, crossing to the other side of the blue line. This time it is going over us. And then very shortly, it didn't already happen. Oh yeah, there's the Franconia Springfield Metro Station. So back there where I was complaining about going too fast, at that point we crossed through I-95, I-495. Just to the west of where we are now is what they call the Mixing Bowl. That is the grand interchange, exit 169, where 395, I-95, and I-495, the Capital Beltway, all converge together. There we go. Okay. Yeah, I was going to say, because the Metro's still here. Alright. That was I-95 with I-495. So that's the Capital Beltway, just crossed outside of that. And now our station should be coming up. Another thing too is I haven't really noticed any mileposts along the way. So either I haven't been looking hard enough or they're just not visible for whatever reason. In any case, though, we're coming up to Franconia Springfield. Alright, so that blockhouse there is the Blue Line Terminal metro station right there. Okay, it is now 4:13. Departure is scheduled for 2:14. Sorry, 3:14. So we are still on time. Okay, departure time. Okay, next station is Lorton at 3:21, and we will be completely uninterrupted until that station at full speed, assuming I keep my head inside the cab enough to hear the signal. Okay, and here are the tail tracks for the Washington Metro Blue Line coming to an end right here. So this is the very end of the Blue Line. And that's it. We are now Metroless. Alright, I want to see if I can spot one of these mileposts. You know what? Maybe only some of them. Yeah, I think only some of these are in. Oh, okay. Alright. If that's the case, I am going to need to cheat every once in a while, because if there's no mileposts, I don't know the track to the degree of not being able to ascertain where I am based on sight picture alone. If I had mileposts, I would be fine. See, Pohick is 1 mile from Lorton, so when I get there, I should expect to be slowing down for Lorton. Headlights now remind me that we can turn on the cab light. We're done with tunnels. Good. There's the Lorton station. So there's two stations at Lorton. There's the auto train and the VRE station. So if I recall, the VRE station is meant to be walkable, so that you can come to it if you're in the community, whereas the auto train is basically a giant parking lot. It's not a good station to live by and take. But the deal with the auto train is you put your car on. You're not going to be riding the auto train if you don't have a car. It just doesn't make that much sense. So that's why there's actually two separate stations at Lorton. One handles cars and people, the other one just handles people. Alright, that was I think that was the Occoquan River. And that is I-95 right there that we just passed. This station looks shorter, so I'm going to let the front of the train hang off the platform just a little bit here. Still on time, got 1 minute to departure. All right, time to go. Next is Woodbridge at 3:29. See, taking a look at our light pollution now, we're down to a class 7, which is 3.18 millilux of total brightness of the night sky. So basically, the lower that number gets, the more we're in the middle of nowhere. We're, to get a Bortle Class 1, you have to be insanely far out. We're talking like central Nevada, maybe southwestern Arizona. Basically, anything east of the Mississippi River is Class 2 and above. All right, there is the auto train, the beginnings of the auto train trackage. So the turnaround along sidings. Here are the car loading sidings. So they will. Oh my gosh, that happens so quick. And it always happens right when I go outside too. No more head outside the train. All right, 1, 2. Three, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. There we go. Demanding full acceleration out of the train there. That time was bad because we were in the middle of a long acceleration run. Anyway, I was gonna say, there we go. We're all the way at notch 8 now. I was gonna say those sidings are where you load the train up with cars. So I'm not sticking my head out the window anymore. That's the second time. Next station is Rippon at 3:35. By the way, that bridge was not the Occoquan River. That'll be just before. Well, something's really wrong with my brain today. I can't control anything. So, in aviation terms, they consider the thing called sterile cockpit. So basically, you keep dropping another thing until you're successful. So that's what I'm going to have to do. Going to Woodbridge. What happened was after we made our emergency stop, I advanced to Rippon, and that was not a service stop. We're still going to Woodbridge. We're about to cross the Occoquan River. And now I'm going to be quiet because that's the only way that I'm going to be able to drive this train home. Well, by some divine miracle, we're still on time. All right, next station is Rippon at 3:35. And that's quite a long straightaway. Now, just after Rippon is a new community that they're building called Potomac Shores, and there'll be an infill station, between Rippon and Quantico called Potomac Shores, but that's a few years away. I'm not very big on infill stations because I'm used to the marked pen line where, you know, it goes 100 miles an hour. So if you add an infill station, then it's like, okay, well, the train is going to arrive at the final destination 5 minutes later, you know, because it takes 2 minutes to slow down from 100 miles an hour, then there's a minute to stop, then there's 2 minutes to get back up to 100 miles an hour. You know, it's funny, every time I used to come up on Featherstone Interlocking, oh, by the way, that's should be the Potomac out there. Every time I come up to Featherstone Interlocking, I'm like, I've heard that name before. Where have I heard that name? I finally reread one of my favorite childhood books called Airborne, and there's one guy in there, one of the people who operate like one of the airship there. His name is Mr. Featherstone, and I remember him because he's one of like the few crew that actually got shot by pirates, air pirates, that is. All right, so I think this is a quiet zone that we're coming up to right here. Alright, we're now down to a mortal class of 5, so now we're starting to go from bright to kind of dark. For a 5 is starting to get pretty dark for a metro region. But we're also starting to get, you know, further out of the metro. Although, honestly, I-95 South is a disaster, really, all the way to Richmond. Basically, until you hit the I-85 junction. Because you're full of people trying to go to Virginia Beach and Richmond and Charlotte and, you know, points southwest and southeast. All right, that was a much better stop. So we're going to actually be here 2 minutes because I did that stop so well. Okay, next is Quantico at 3:45 p.m. We're starting to get to the southern end of the line where the stations start to space out more. You know, transitioning from suburban to exurban, really, at this point. And it is in this segment where we would encounter Potomac shores if it were here, and it will be in a couple of years. So that way is looking out to the Potomac. That was Powell's Creek that we just crossed. There'll be a couple more bridges. Right about where we are now, the Potomac is about a mile and a half wide. So it's twice as wide as where we crossed it in Washington, D.C. Okay, we're getting close to the Possum Point generating station. That's why these power lines are all converging here. And there's the generating station right there. And after Possum Point, we cross Quantico Creek, and then we're into Quantico. Take advantage of this just a little bit. We got to slow down here and do some dynamic braking. This is Quantico Creek. Right here, the Potomac is about 2 miles wide. Okay, that is a whistle sign, no quiet. Actually, I'm blocking the crossing. Probably also it's early. Let me see. Yeah, I'm 1 minute early, so I can move up. Much better. All right, and with that, we're on time. All right, now we're really getting south. The next station is Brooke at 3:59, so about 13 minutes from now. Still a mortal class 5 for darkness, but should get a little bit darker once we get further out into the Potomac, or further down the Potomac, I should say. Back up to 70 miles an hour. Passing through the Quantico Marine Base right now. And now we're going to go into the forest for some time. And we'll be following the Potomac down to Widewater. That's the furthest we're going to get without going somewhere else. That is the last we will see of the Potomac. Before it turns east and finds the Chesapeake Bay 50 miles later. Currently here at Widewater, the Potomac is 5 kilometers or 3 miles wide, and it will widen up to 5 miles before it reaches the Chesapeake, which itself is somewhere between 10 and 30 miles depending on whether you're north or south of the Potomac. Once the Potomac comes in, it reaches its maximum width of 30 miles if you count Pocomoke Sound. It's a lot different from the northern Chesapeake, where you're dealing with the NEC, where you can see it. It's about 2 miles wide, where the Chesapeake Bay Bridge carrying US Route 50 and 301 across is about 4 to 5 miles wide. So that's it for the Potomac. This will largely be, hopefully, uneventful, but there's not much to see between here and Brooke. Although we will be crossing Aquia Creek pretty soon, and then we will be able to look off to the left and see out into the Potomac one more time. And then, interestingly enough, there's a creek called Potomac Run. The creek itself is called Potomac, but it's not the river. Okay, there's a milepost, finally. Where the heck were they hiding all this time? I really needed them. So to give you an idea of how spaced out the stations are right now, there's just 4 stations, including the final one remaining. Brooke, Leeland Road, Fredericksburg, and Spotsylvania, covering the last 19 miles. Okay, there's another milepost. Okay, so are we picking them up now? Because if so, then I can close my screen here. Okay, we're about to cross Aquia Creek now. And for the last time, the Potomac River. Looking pretty much in the downstream direction, because I've heard a couple people use the term. I also use it. I call this the Great Bend of the Potomac, where the Potomac goes from kind of like a south-southwesterly direction to a east-southeasterly direction. Pretty much a 90% turn. A lot of the rivers in the Chesapeake Bay do that right before they hit the main stem of the bay. The Patuxent does it too. There's a great bend, pretty much where Solomon's is. The Rappahannock, if I'm not mistaken, does it too. Yep, the Rappahannock does it. The York does it, the James does it. So basically every major river that flows into the western side of the Chesapeake Bay does that great bend at some point or another. Some do it early, like the Potomac, and others do it at the last second, like the Patuxent. And it is at this point that we finally reach our minimum brightness of 20.60 magnitude per square arc second availability. 619 microlux and a Bortle class of 4, which is basically I believe that's considered a suburban to rural transition sky, with a full rural sky being a class 3. Class 2, I think, is considered a wild sky, and Class 1 is exceptionally dark. But even without human habitation, it would still be a typical sky. It's not like it's, you know, darker than everywhere else. But you got to be really, really far, like northern Canada, western U.S., or open ocean. Perfect stop. Okay, let's see where we're at now. So we're due at 3:59. It's 3:56. So we're going to be sitting here for about 2.5, 3 minutes. All right, Leeland Road, here we come. We're due there at 4:08. Already we're back up to a mortal class 5 because we're coming into Fredericksburg, which is a very large town, almost a small city. And that looks like a misspelling. Let me check the timetable. Yeah, it's spelled Potomac on the timetable, but it's spelled Potomac on the HUD. That's incorrect. It should be Potomac, like Potomac. So in other words, matching the spelling of the main stem river. I'm so glad that I finally had the chance to do this because I've been really busy, not with work, but just a lot of other personal things that I couldn't do the earlier half of the year where I was busy with work, and it's one of those things like, oh yeah, I'll do it at some point. The holdup was I didn't have the engine skin. You know, it's one of those things. Well, I have to do research for that, so I just put it off a long time. But now that I have the engine, I mean, it's as simple as just loading up the sim and going. So expect a lot more of these, especially if you request specific trains. I am very, very happy to do specific trains, specific daytime, nighttime. Well, actually, that's not true. You can't tell me request 303, but that train 303 in the middle of the night, because train 303 runs right now in the late afternoon. But yeah, I mean, request a train, request a from to, request a season. For sure, I'm good with that, because I know that there's a lot of folks from Northern Virginia that watch my channel. Thank you so much, because I know it's you guys that are making my my channel what it is. So yeah, just keep recommending stuff, and I'll bring it to you guys. Perfectly happy to do that. Okay, we're also, again, a little bit early, so it seems like these spread out stations were a lot more early. Next time, instead of going all the way up to notch 6, I think I'm going to try a notch 5 acceleration, because we've got speed. Yeah, we'll be waiting here 3 minutes. Okay, next station will be Fredericksburg at 4:16. Which for a while was the southernmost point on the VRE Fredericksburg line. But they had recently added Spotsylvania because parking at Fredericksburg can be a little bit difficult because it's such a large town. So the Spotsylvania it's kind of like the infill stub station. There's nothing to go on the other side, but they're just pulling in all of the different areas from like Ashland and let's see, is Culpeper close enough? Yeah, it might be a little bit further south, or west rather, but yeah, Orange County, Port Royal, all those kind of southeasterly Virginia areas can kind of like come together and park at Spotsylvania Station. So that's, from what I understand, why they did it. So this is Dahlgren Junction, as it says on the HUD. The Dahlgren branch splits off to the left, right here. And Fredericksburg starts very abruptly all of a sudden on the south bank of the Rappahannock River from this approach direction. So it might not look like it, but we're actually about to get into a very large town in about 1 minute. Okay, so this is the Rappahannock River right here. This is pretty much the point at which it becomes tidal at the fall line here, which is exactly why Fredericksburg formed where it did. It's on the same line that Baltimore, Washington, Laurel, Philadelphia, Trent, they're all on that fall line. And Fredericksburg is also an Amtrak station. And we are due to leave here at 4:16. So just about 2 minutes to go, so about a minute. Anybody else feel creeped out when you talk about something and then speak of the devil and he shall appear? You got an advertisement for that same thing? Remember how I talked about the auto train back in Lorton? Well, one of my suggested videos is about the auto train, interestingly enough. Okay, we are coming up to departure. Next and final station, Spotsylvania at 4:27 p.m. All right, we've got an approach signal ahead. All right, and here we go, Spotsylvania Station. So this is it for this time, but just request another video, and there'll be a next time pretty soon, because like I said, everything's set up. All I got to do is just set up the simulation and go. And that's it, folks, the entire Fredericksburg line of Virginia Railway Express. I hope you've enjoyed this. I've been Dr. Aeronautics, and I will see you guys next time. Bye-bye.